This podcast is part of the Zeo to Hero Podcast Network.
AvenuePodcast.net.
Hello, all my beautiful people, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of If You Give a Dad a Podcast. I really appreciate everybody who tunes in and listens every week to this show. And this week I have with me a returning guest. I had him on sometime towards the beginning of the year this year, and he reached out and wanted to come back on to tell some stories. Last time he was on here, it was a big hit. He is actually the episode that has the most downloads out of all of them, and he told me in this one that, he's got a record to break, and so we're going to try to do that today. He had a ton of stories. He was a lot of fun to talk to, and the guy that I am talking about is Cornell. He's a wrestler that I've seen wrestle in person, and he's a lot of fun. So I think you guys are really going to enjoy this. And for those of you who are here just to listen to the Cornell episode, welcome. I hope that you enjoy what you hear, and I hope that you stick around and listen to some of the other great episodes I have here as well. So if you guys are as excited as I am, then let's get this show on the road.
If You Give a Dad a Podcast. Hey, Dad.
So where did you actually train at?
I made a really good career out of being able to bump, sell, and I had a punch me face.
I wasn't about to call you dad, so.
Seriously?
I felt like it was in an anime or something.
People get really mad at those videos for some reason. Like, it triggers certain people. Yeah.
Wow.
I was actually lost as an infant, and I was taken in by a traveling group of independent wrestlers.
I love it. I'm excited for this one.
Bro.
Get punched in the face on the daily. Do you always do these interviews with your shirt off?
What?
Man, this guy won't shut up.
3S360 Moment Video Booth. What it is it's something unique. It's not like a regular photo booth. You can put these at any event, whether it be a large one or a small one, and people can make their own videos. What you do is you stand on this platform, and there's a camera that goes all the way around you. You can have people on there with you to do goofy poses or whatever it is. But what it does is it makes these events memorable. We all know that we want to make memories when we do this. We take pictures, we take videos. So what this does is it helps you to make a very unique experience. And the cool thing is when you have this device there, it is immediately shareable to your own devices. So reach out to 3S360 Moments Video Booth today to get them at your next big event. You can reach them at 3S360 Moments Photo Booth at gmail.com. I will have the email address in my show notes, but to make those events memorable, to have that unique experience, get them out there today. All right, everybody. I am really stoked about this. I'm pretty stoked about most of these, but this one is going to be a lot of fun. I have a returning guest. He is actually holds the record for most downloads on this podcast, and I saw him in my very first show. As you know, I've talked about him quite a bit on here. He is a wrestler out of the Nebraska area, and I am talking about the Copperhead, Cornell. Man, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
Doing good. As we talked before we started recording, it's been a very busy, hectic week, but we are here now, and I am excited to talk.
Yes, running around with all kinds of kids, our kids, I should say. I really should preface it that it's our kids that we're running around with, not other children.
Right.
But yes, with all kinds of choirs and concerts. And then you were talking about a cheer camp. And I know we got to start getting a couple boys ready for wrestling season. So they're going to start busting ass on that.
Yeah.
It's ticking. It's a week, and it's only Tuesday.
It's only Tuesday. I actually, whenever I left my shoot job today, I said, y'all have a good weekend. And they're like, Jared, it's only Tuesday. Like, oh, never mind. So It's been a long week already.
No, I did my 40. I'm good.
Yeah. I've only done, 16, but it feels like 40. So you told me whenever you were coming back on, you have a record to break. We just talked about this. You are the most downloaded episode that I have.
Yeah, I have some pretty big shoes to fill. Fortunately, they're my own, and I feel like I gotta bring the heat today because that first one was pretty informative. We got a good look at, where I am, where I've been, this, that, and the other thing. Now I think we got to fill in some spots with some really good stories because I've been around forever. And every time I step into a locker room and someone's sitting there telling me anything, I go, oh yeah, I was there for like their fourth match. It was actually at WFC, the last show. I was sitting there talking with old Johnny Dynamite, and it came up about Juice Robinson.
Oh,
and I was there for Juice Robinson's fourth match. It was in a bar in Moline, Illinois. He wrestled in front of 17 people, and he looked like bleach blonde Carlito at the time. And I remember seeing that, and I was like, that is a very distinct look. I'm sure we'll see him again. And then, he just kind of took off into Chicago, and then he got quiet for a little bit, and then next thing I knew, he was in NXT, and I was like, wow, nothing makes you realize how long you've been in it when you watch people come up, like Pete Dunne, Butch. I was running around when he was doing his learning excursion with Mark Andrews. We ran around in the Midwest area all the time, and everyone's talking about Pete and how great he is, and he's wonderful. I remember my fondest memory with him is he was way past drunk at a Casey's, and he was arguing with the cashier about what the hell 3X chocolate means on a candy bar because he doesn't understand what the hell Americans are about with what is 3X chocolate. Why can't you write 3 times chocolate? What is 1 chocolate? How do you multiply chocolate? And it was a big argument, and I was like, we're going to get arrested in LaSalle, Illinois, because this woman doesn't understand why this English guy is just screaming about chocolate and how do you multiply chocolate.
Well, yeah, here in the United States, it's all about getting more, so I could see where that could be confusing, and that would have been interesting to see.
Oh, it was definitely something. I was watching him put him down at the bar too. So he was having a good time there, and then we'll catch him on the next one, because it was every couple of weeks I ran into him and Mark. Yeah, and then I ran into him at that Casey's, and I was like, this might be the last time we run into each other because I think he's getting arrested.
And now he's gone on to do really cool stuff in WWE.
Yeah, now he can get how much ever X chocolate he wants. He's doing just fine.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because there's some of them that once they make it, they do crazy things, but they're fine. There's a story I heard about. You've probably heard this. It was Cody who told the story about Randy Orton pulling a urinal out of the wall.
Yes, I have heard that one.
Yeah, I mean, there's some of them that are a little untouchable, I guess you could say.
Yeah. When you're that high up in the pecking order, you can kind of do whatever the hell you want, whenever the hell you want.
Exactly. So there's been a lot that's actually been going on with you. For one, just looks in general, you have got rid of the dreads, kind of cut the hair.
Yeah.
And the last time I saw it, you're not wearing the eye patch anymore, are you?
No. So a lot has changed. Not all as a choice. So when it came to the dreads, I actually took the world's most dangerous snapmare, and guy actually grabbed a hunk of my dreads to pull me in for it, and only my hair went with him.
Oh no.
So I had about 9 dreads. Essentially I was just scalped, and it all rooted, and I looked like Lloyd Christmas from Dumb and Dumber if he had dreadlocks for his bangs. Oh, no. And so I said, well, we got to get rid of it all. I'm not doing this. So I had a sweet buzzed head, and I was looking like Curious George. And then when it came to the eye, I had the eye surgeries back in February. Yep. And then I had to have another one back in May because I was misdiagnosed with what was going on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I found out my retina was actually shrinking. It wasn't just that it detached from my eye. The whole thing was shriveling. So, yeah. So they had to pump my eye full of oil. And I have a couple more surgeries that I got to do to finally get things going and finally see out of my right eye again. But that's where we've been, is I got misdiagnosed and I had to get this surgery, and then I had to get a hole in my iris to let the oil actually run through my eyes as opposed to just pooling in the bottom. Yeah. And it's been a whole thing. So, wow. But yeah, the hair's finally growing back. It's different wrestling, blind in the other eye now.
Yeah.
It's been a change, but yeah, it's I think the look's coming together finally. It took a little bit without the hair, I didn't have much of one, but now it's looking a lot better.
Yeah, well, I know that, I forgot who it was, but somebody said that they would book you when you brought the dreads back or something like along those lines and everything. Are you going to bring those back, or are you just going to go with a whole new look?
I fully plan, once we get a little more length here, to get the dreads back. I know I've had a lot of people tell me that if you don't go as long, it's not going to root like it did last time, but
yeah.
If you don't have enough hair, it's not going to anchor in. Like, I've had conflicting information. So it's like, well, I'll give it a little bit and then we'll try it one more time. But yeah, we'll go for the dreads one more time. I don't think I'm going to do quite as many colors, but definitely we're going for dreads again.
That'd be cool. Yeah. So like you said, like I was saying a minute ago, a lot has happened with you. You know, you've been wrestling all over the place still. And, having you on opened me up to almost a whole new market, you know, of people to listen to the show. I've got people in the Midwest that are listening now because of having you on the show. You've been doing a lot of stuff in like Minnesota and up north now, haven't you?
Yeah, so I cut back up north here. I had the opportunity with Below Zero, flashback over in Montana. I got to add a new state to the list. I wrestled Fuego over there, Fuego del Sol. You know what? He's really good. TV didn't really do him too much justice. I get that there was times and cues, and he had business he had to take care of, but it really kind of stepped on his toes. But now that he's out of that element and he gets a chance to actually engage with the crowd again and get back to almost the grassroots of what he was doing before he got signed, he's even better now. So we had a lot of fun in Montana. But yeah, Below Zero, a lot with North Dakota, Minnesota. I got one more shot in North Dakota in December. So that's exactly when you want to go north, is when it's going to snow a lot. And then
I guess, yeah.
And then I'm going even further north into Minnesota the weekend after, because I don't know any better.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so just my King of the North tour, and just get that done. And you know, it's been great. I've enjoyed it. There's talks about getting back into South Dakota again. But yeah, it's back up into the north. It's different. It's so crazy to just go back and forth between markets, from where 1 week I'll be in just outside of Jamestown, North Dakota, and then I'll be in Tulsa in a week later. And just the varying difference with the wrestling crowds. It really keeps me sharp, and it makes me very cognitive of where I'm at and what's going to work and what's not going to work. So I don't really get to rest on any kind of laurels to where it's like, oh, well, this worked last week, and, you know, bumblefuck Minnesota, it's definitely going to work in Teacup, Arkansas, or wherever the hell I'm at today. And it doesn't. It just doesn't. And that's like, well, back to the drawing board. You got to remember where the hell you're at. You got to remember what works. So
yeah. Is it as prominent? I mean, because I know where I'm at, I've got multiple wrestling companies right here. Is it the same way up north? Are they all over the place?
So there was, for a while, you couldn't throw a rock without hitting 3 promoters. But now it's kind of thinned out a little bit. Nebraska really only has 3, maybe 4 in the whole state. And 2 of them run primarily in Omaha. So there's that. North Dakota, there's 2, 3 sometimes. It depends on if the promoter's in jail or not. Yeah. Minnesota has just as many promotions as they do lakes, so there's that.
That's a lot.
Iowa is I refer to it as a desolate wasteland where everyone's trying to play King of the Sandbox, because they all use the same 12 guys. It's just different alphabet soup.
Yeah.
But there's about 3 or 4 in Iowa right now. There's Seth Rollins' little corner of the world where no one touches Scott County. So they're golden. Illinois, one of them. But yeah, it's it really just depends on the state and the area as to how heavy it really is. I know when you get down south, there's always someone, and there's a promoter somewhere from another show at that show that wants to talk to you about their show, and then another show.
Yep.
And it's very intertwined, and you know, it's different. It's a good different though.
Right. Well, I mean, culture wise, you know, it's just different, you know, going from north to south and everything. So I can imagine that, you know, there is a big difference in just the way that they run their federations and the way they run things, their business wise. So yeah, that makes sense to me that, you know, it would almost be like a culture change whenever you come down south compared to up there.
Yeah, it's really hard to put into words on the difference.
Mm-hmm.
But you're very aware when you get there to where you get north, and it's almost like it's a smarter crowd now. Before I get blasted on whatever, I'm not saying that the south is dumb crowds. It's the north wants to sit, and they want to be like they're in on it, like they're elbowing you to where it's like, good job tonight, huh?
Yeah.
And so you get a lot of that, and you have to try and placate to that. And then you get down to the south where people just genuinely enjoy wrestling. They enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Some people enjoy it too much. They'll try and dive over guardrails at you.
You wouldn't say that without having a story, would you?
Oh, of course I have a story. So, in the South, but yeah, like they enjoy it more, and they're very appreciative of wrestling. And it's not, again, not saying the North isn't appreciative of it.
Yeah.
But it's a whole different type of appreciation to where it's like, hey man, that was a lot of fun. And my kids loved it. And This was great. You signed his face, and he's going to go to school with that on a Monday, and everyone's going to have a good laugh. And it's great. It's great. Southern hospitality is a real thing. And it's not until you bounce back and forth to where you realize once you cross in getting into like the Southern Kansas, Northern Oklahoma area to where you're like, oh, there is a real thing here where it's everyone's mood changes and they're much more inviting with things.
Well, you know, it's I don't know much about being up north. My wife is actually from Minnesota, and so only thing I do is I pick on her when her Minnesota accent comes out, because you know we're in Arkansas, so those O's come out in what she's saying. Yes. You know, and I'm like, can you say that again? And then she'll just stop talking. You know, but beyond my interactions with her, I don't know a lot about up there. We haven't went and visited really, you know, but the Southern hospitality is definitely a thing. I can vouch for that.
Yes. And to speak to accents, my better half from Rhode Island. So,
different type of accent.
Oh yeah. It's a heavy New England accent.
Yeah.
Heavy New England accent. And I love it. I'll just pick out words and be like, just repeat that a couple times.
Yeah.
And she'll make fun of my Midwest stuff because now after I've done all of this travel, I kind of have this weird amalgamation of just a conglomerate of accents to where there's some stuff I'll say Southern, like I'll have like a real deep where there's like 2 U's in it instead of an O.
Yeah.
Or I've been known to throw out the Minnesota a couple times.
Yeah.
I've been everywhere. I've talked to a lot of people, and I just kind of picked up a little bit from everybody. So I'm just I'm a little bit of a mutt when it comes to how I talk. But when I gotta get her going, and that New England really comes out, and the R's drop off, and then there's random R's thrown on words. I've never heard of the word "sar" before, but apparently that's when you've seen something. I've saw it.
SAR. Okay.
Yeah, SAR. I thought that was just one of those diseases we were supposed to avoid, but apparently that's what happens after it's been seen. It was SAR'd.
Okay. I've heard Saint.
Yeah,
I seen it. But yeah, that was the new one for me.
Yep. Saint, SAR. Mm-hmm. It's all, and yeah, it's great. Just sitting in our house, just listening to all the weird things I'll throw out, and then hearing her New England accent pop through. You got to keep up. You never know what words are actually coming out.
Your poor kids.
Yeah, they're gonna sound so cultured because they know what all of these different like regions of the United States sound like. And then here, and then it turns out, well, dad just doesn't know how to talk, and then mom's from New England. So
So there was something that happened on Facebook a minute ago, maybe like a week ago, and I didn't know whether to believe you or not. And it was the picture you posted to Goldberg. Yeah, because I mean, it's you, and you were talking about WFC, so that's Tim, and he gets all kinds of crazy big names to come there to WFC. So I was like, is this real or not? And you still haven't told me. So. But that was for the anniversary show, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So for the anniversary show, there was one of the guys down there. He had posted a picture where it was like Goldberg spotted in Tulsa for whatever Goldberg thing he was doing, but he didn't look real happy in the picture.
Gotcha.
So I was like, you know what? Sure, let's just see what happens. It'll be funny. I didn't think it was getting anything more like 6-7 likes to where it's like, okay, Goldberg's gonna be somewhere in Tulsa. Got it.
It blew up.
It got a lot of traction. I had a lot of messages. I got so many people from my high school that were like, dude, we're so happy to see that you're doing this shit with Goldberg. Can you get us tickets? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I can get you tickets, but you got to get down to Tulsa. Well, it's like, how far is Oklahoma? Well, from Fort Dodge, it's, 9 hours or so. And then they never answered. But they're like, we're so fucking proud of you. You tell Goldberg I love him. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He'll know exactly who I'm talking about.
Oh, man, that's great. And it's fun to reuse some of those. People post stuff, and then it gets your brain going. And then sometimes it hits like this one does, and sometimes it doesn't. But when it does hit, it's great.
Yeah, and I even messaged him. I was like, hey, I got an alarming amount of messages about Goldberg being on your show. I'm just going to tell you, man, you probably need to pull the trigger and book him because there's going to be some upset people. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'll just make that call right now.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, that one. I was sure that maybe you were kidding, but, in the back of my mind, it's like, you never know. Anything's possible. So never say never. I've learned that with with doing this.
Yeah, and then with Tim with all of his Slamapaloozas and Extravaslamzas, like, are you gonna say that it's not on the docket? Like he's pulling out some names, and it's like, well, it could.
Exactly. I mean, what was it? Extravaslamza had Teddy Long, JTG, Mr. Kennedy, and was there one more?
Yep, EC3 was there.
EC3 was there. Okay, and he's doing the This Is Wrestling, where EC3 is coming to do like a seminar and a NWA tryout. So I was, wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, so I mean, how out of the realm is Goldberg at a certain point? So I just thought it would be funny. I just wanted to see what people were going to do. I was like, there's going to be 7 people that react, and then I woke up and I was like, oh, this has 90 reactions. Shit. All right.
You done it now, Duke.
I stepped in it on this one.
So you messaged me today, and you were talking about how you have some stories to tell. And there's one story in particular that you brought up in our messages that I want to hear. And it has to do with a Canadian destroyer and a little person.
Yes. So I actually told this one recently, not on a podcast. This is the first time. You get a lot of first-time stories here.
I appreciate it.
I was wrestling in Keokuk, Iowa. It was part of, I want to say, Ragbri, which is the big bike ride where they go through Iowa, and it's about a week.
Okay.
And so it's a big party at every stop, and we were the entertainment for one of the stops. And they booked me against the world's strongest midget, Chad Armstrong.
Okay.
Well, Chad, I've seen him around. I've heard stories, and I finally get to work with him. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. This will be fine. And I meet him, and he's about half cocked. I'm like, dude, it's like 3. you're this gone by 3. All right, cool. I mean, I wish I partied that hard on a Thursday, but here we go. And so we're back there, and I'm getting changed out, and I'm just like, is he? No. And he tied on a few more, and it was getting a little tougher for him to stand up. And I was like, oh, we're gonna have to get through this. So we're sitting there, we're talking, whatever. And I go, you want to give me up for like a scoop slam? I bet you this crowd would absolutely eat this shit up. And he's like, oh, sure. How do you do that? I'm like, hang on.
Oh, no.
We're not that far gone, are we?
Oh, no.
All right, this is my match to have, and I got 3.5 feet to work with. So let's do this. So as I'm sitting there talking with him, I was like, yeah. I mean, like, if it's there, I might call like a power bomb or something. And he's like, oh, okay. So whatever, we're having this match. I just took the scoop slam. It's fine, whatever. I feed up and I stuff my head between his legs, and I feel him wrap up, and I say, hang on. And I backflip as hard as I can to give myself a destroyer.
Yeah.
And I just have him, he is screaming so hard into my ass because he has no idea what's going on.
Oh my God.
I just feel for the whole ride. We land, crowd's eating it up. He's as startled as the rest of them.
Yeah.
And when there's interference, whatever screwy finish we had, and then it led to a tag match that night when at nightfall we were gonna have a street fight. And promoter's like, hey, I want you to somehow get to where, because there was a bar that was help sponsoring this, to go to the bar across the street, and if you can have him like dive off the counter at you for some footage, that'd be great. I'm like, you know what? Sure. But the problem with us prolonging this match is now he's taking more liberties of like, I got more time to just whatever. So he found a few more. And I'm not shitting on anyone for wanting to have one or two. I've had my fair share of hardcore matches, and it lubes you up and you get ready for the pain. Yeah. However, to get to a point where he was at, I was like, you know what? I'm just pissed. Right. So we're out there, bell rings for this tag match. I grab him and immediately throw him to the outside. I have never thrown a person into a porta potty so hard in my life. I watched him actually bounce back. It didn't just cave and he stayed there. The porta potty said, I don't want this, and threw him back at me. And then we brawled through the street just a little bit. We got to the bar, and he did a dive at me, and promoter's like, oh, this is all I wanted in this match. It's like, great, now his ass is mine. And so I took him back out into the street. And so I get him back out in the street. I see some kid, and he's got his bike. Well, I'm not about to pass this up. This kid, I shove him off of his bike and I go, look at your parents. They're lying about how they love you to people. And so I steal his bike, and I ran over this little person. I mean, oh my gosh, full on just ramped off of him, and no regrets. I was kind of, I do try to keep a good sense of professionalism, but when you can't meet me in any aspect of it, I'm just gonna do some shit, and that was one of the shit that I did. I gave myself a Canadian destroyer to entertain me because I knew this match was not going to go super well, and then I stole a kid's bike and ran over him. So, oh man, I mean, I got my money's worth. People were super entertained. He didn't really have anything to say about it afterwards. Like, I don't know if he registered that I ran him over. Well, if he hears this episode, he's going to be like, that bastard. Yeah, well, if he hears about it, I'll hear about it at some point. But yeah, I'll tell him exactly what I thought. But yeah, that was one of my really good ones. Is I gave myself a Canadian destroyer with a little person, and then I ran over him later that night.
And that is, they say that you're making moments and stuff whenever you're out there. That's what they remember, is the moments and everything, and that's a moment that those people will never forget. Yeah, I try and do something that's going to be semi-memorable. I don't know if it's going to be because I'm running my mouth and I'm funny,
or if it's going to be some old lady diving over a guardrail at me. That was my first time wrestling in Oklahoma, by the way. I came out and some kid, it was for BCW over in Guthrie. I remember the town this time. So concussions didn't win completely, but I was in Guthrie and I come out and there's this kid playing around on his mom's phone.
Yep.
And he's just screwing around. I come out and I just stop and I stare at him. I'm waiting for him to put his eyes up over the edge of the phone. I kneel down and I don't say anything clever. I don't say anything wonderful. He looks up at me and I just go, boo. And he throws the phone 3 rows back. And his mom, because there's now a guy with one eye and dreadlocks and all of the insignia that I have on my coats and my gear, is now staring at her child, and he's screaming and crying. So she dove over the guardrail and got caught by like 3 security guards. And she's just screaming at me, meet me in the parking lot, da, 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 just squawking. And the bad part is she was on my left side that was covered, so I didn't even see her coming to react. All I just heard was someone yelling.
Yeah.
And I think that pissed her off even more. They just completely no-sold her because I had no clue. It's like, just someone yelling at me, I guess. And if she would have got past him, she would have got me. I don't know with what, but she would have got me.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of funny in the hindsight of all that. But,
she was like they were a family of somebody that worked at the show too, weren't they?
Yes. So she was the wife of one of the workers.
Okay.
And he came back to me after the show, or after that whole thing, and he was, hey, you think that's funny to scare my kid? I was like, I didn't know that was your kid, but I can't even say that I thought it was funny, but I certainly did it.
Yeah.
And he's just staring at me, and he wants to say something else, and I'm just like, all right, first day down here, I'm gonna go ahead and just put my foot down. Hey, if you're that mad, do I need to get my glasses and we go talk about it outside, or are you just gonna go back to the commentary table?
Yeah.
And so he went back to the commentary table, and I was like, oh, good, because I didn't know where the hell I put my glasses. So, yeah, we had a fun discussion with that.
Did they book you there again?
Oh, I'd actually done 2 more for him, and that was it.
Okay.
But yeah, he was Tommy was all about it. He thought it was great. He was talking about it. He's like, I even gave him extra money. And I was like, dude, if you gave me extra money, that means you were going to skimp me on my actual rate. But neither here nor there.
So this is one I have an actual testimonial for myself. I've used this company to get a custom gift made for my wife. If you're looking for a handmade custom gift or something that's laser engraved or just something that's one of a kind that says, hey, I care, then go to 3S Productions. They even make military and sports themes gifts as well. It is a veteran owned and operated family business. Hit them up on their Instagram page, and that's at 3S Productions. I will have a link to them in my show notes. When it comes to laser engraving or any type of woodworking, go to 3S Productions with a Z. And like I said, I'll have a link to them in my show notes. So I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite rib? Is there any ribs that you can tell?
So my favorite rib, and I'm going to give it away to anybody that listens to this, because it's one of the best. I stole it from one of the best in Eric Cannon.
Okay.
So it's a rib in battle royals.
Uh-huh.
You find the newest guy, and you have just like a corner of a cardboard box, and you act like it's a gig. You get him in the corner, and you say something like, hold still, or I'm going to hit the artery. And there's a quick panic, and you dot him, and then go, shit. And then you walk away. So now they think that you opened him up, and they're bleeding in a battle royal for no reason. So I took this concept and I amplified it.
Okay.
So now when I find the greenest guy in these, I go and I dot him in the head, but then I also have like 2 or 3 other guys go check on him and be like, dude, you're bleeding everywhere. You need to get out of the ring. And they're now the whole match checking for where this blood is coming from, because now 3 people have been like, dude, you're bleeding. What's going on? And then just recently with WFC, we did this to Rhett. I'm going to go ahead and stooge off on you here, Rhett. This was great. So I did it to him, and then so I have 3 people check on him. He gets over the top, and I told Tim, hey, when Rhett comes back, start screaming at him for bleeding all over your brand new canvas. So Rhett, after he's thrown over the top, is sprinting to the back because he's been told for like 8 minutes he's bleeding. And then Tim meets him at the curtain. And he goes, hey, man, who the fuck told you to bleed all over my brand new canvas? I just got this. And he's like, I'm so sorry. And he runs into the bathroom.
Yeah.
Checks, comes back out, and he goes, I just got ribbed, didn't I? That is my absolute favorite.
Oh, that's good. That is really good. I like that. Oh my goodness. I haven't had him on the podcast, but I'm gonna have to ask him about that whenever he comes on.
It's one of my favorites. I love to find it, and I've given off my secret here, and
you have.
That's all right, but
now you'll just have to come up with something else.
I'll find something else to mess with people. I'm pretty good at it.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're pretty well known for it. Messing with the fans, messing with everybody on there. Do you have a favorite? I might have asked you this before, but do you have a favorite heel move that you like to do?
I usually like to find the one kid who's there without his parents and then pick on him. Okay. Usually that's my go-to, is to just pick on the one stray kid that thinks that he's real funny.
Yeah.
So, other than that, as far as like any kind of heel moves, I don't really have too many things that I like to bother too much with, as much as I like to. Because like I said, I'm just on the move, and I hate to rest on one thing because it might not work. So I keep challenging myself with stuff.
Right. Well, I mean, that's got to keep you fresh too, going back and forth like that, because you said you can't use what you do up north, down south. It doesn't always work that way. So that makes you very well versed, wherever you're at, on always coming up with fresh new ideas.
Right. It keeps a lot of people on their toes, and having talked with Luke Langley, who I will go publicly to say again is one of my favorite wrestlers. We've talked, and he goes, you have some of the most creative everythings when it gets to going on this stuff. And it's because I like to say this because I've done so much travel, and I've seen a lot, and I've tried a lot, and I just keep reinventing, and I don't really rest on too much. Yeah.
Well, I've told you this before, but you and him were the main event of my very first independent show. And you guys are the reason why I was like, okay, I need to know more about independent wrestling, because I had no idea about it.
Yeah, that was the first time I'd ever wrestled Luke in a singles.
Okay.
Our first match was a tag, and it was in Independence, Missouri, with my tag partner, Joey. We were Guns and Beer.
Guns and Beer.
Yeah, 3 of America's favorite things, because why would you have just one gun?
Exactly.
So Guns and Beer, and they were the KC Wolves. It was him and Graham Bell.
Yep.
And I don't know what I did in that match. I want to ask him sometimes, because he hit me so hard I swore I owe him money, and I didn't meet him before that day. But him and Graham just beat me like I did something wrong.
Oh, wow.
And then hot tag goes to Joey, and they were missing him by about 1.5 foot on everything. I was like, come on.
They knew you could take it. You look tough.
Yeah, apparently. I look real punchable. I get that a lot.
Yeah, I heard somebody said that on here, I've got a punch me face.
Yeah, apparently I had a real kick me head that day.
Oh, I'm actually really excited. I'm going to see Luke wrestle on the 29th and everything. He's in a triple threat ladder match, so that's going to be a lot of fun to see.
Okay, that's Diamond State?
Yep. Yeah, Diamond State, State of Emergency. Yep. It's going to be him and Mr. Nasty and Xander Gold.
I've been following them a little bit. I'm interested in Camacho. He's a big boy.
He is. Yep. He's super nice backstage, talking to him and everything. I really enjoy talking to him. It's funny being over there. It's the first time I've ever been backstage, and I was talking to a bunch of the guys in the back, because they have the TV set up to where you can watch as it's going on and everything. And we started talking about like our favorite Disney movies and stuff. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, this is not what I thought I was going to be talking about backstage when I went to this wrestling show. So it's a very surreal moment.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about all kinds of incredibly dumb things back there. And it's, as much as we want to talk about wrestling because that's why we're there and we love it.
Yeah.
This, that, and the other. That's also why we're there. We've got plenty of time to talk about wrestling. We have plenty of time to do the rest of it. We'll talk about all the other dumb shit in between.
Yeah.
There's been plenty of dumb debates that I found myself in the middle of. There's been just random topics that I was like, I don't know why we're even talking about this. But it was just, there was one day we had, it started out as just the first portion of a road trip from Omaha to Minot. We had a TV sitcom tournament, like a TV dad sitcom tournament. And there was 32 brackets and we broke it down to the final 2. And it was the dad from Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah.
And it came down to Carl Winslow.
Okay. From Family Matters.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we got down to these 2 and we narrowed it down. There was 32 I didn't even know we had 32 TV dads to pick from.
Wow.
But it was a 10-hour discussion to get to the final 4. And then we got to the locker room and now we're like, all right, we got our final 4 of dads. We got to go. And then everyone wants to jump in. Well, hang on. How did he get knocked out? It's like, well, we didn't figure Tony Danza is actually going to go build a deck. And like, he's not going to be the one who actually helps out in these situations. Ray Romano is definitely not packing a good lunch for his kids. So he's not a good dad. It's the dumbest things to narrow it down on what made a good TV dad.
That's funny. Where did Danny Tanner rate on there?
Danny Tanner got to the Sweet 16.
He did. Okay. Yeah.
He knocked out Ray Romano in the first round, but then who knocked out Danny Tanner? I don't remember, but he didn't make it very far.
Huh. Well, that's interesting. Now I'm wanting to know. I want to know about this now. That could be a whole episode.
We took 10 hours and then we debated on the final 2. I don't even remember who won. I think we just went, you know what? They're just great TV dads, and we walked away from it. Yeah. And I was like, spent so much time. It was a lot more involved than the best Santa Claus brackets. We got to Tim Allen, and we said, well, by Ric Flair rule, since he killed Santa, to be the man, you have to beat the man. He beat the man. He is Santa. This tournament's over. And it all fell apart within the first 3 matches.
Well, that's a really good point, though. You can't go against what Ric Flair says. The man knows what he's talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, because he's the man. So he set the rules. Yeah. And to be him, you have to beat him. And he beat Santa, so he was the best Santa. But these are the dumb shit things that we talk about. And it's, we all love wrestling. We all talk about the dumbest shit. You can ask my guys down here. My favorite one to sit and argue about is why Stone Cold had a promo with Deborah about the cookies. And he got hit in the head with a cookie sheet, and then what? And it was like, as I was saying, and then went back to talking about The Rock and Kurt Angle. Like, he didn't just burn 8 minutes with his wife in the ring about cookies. He's like, why do we even have this? Why was this a thing?
It was entertaining, man.
It was entertaining, but I lose sleep thinking about it.
I haven't really thought about it that hard, though. So now I know what's going to keep me up tonight. Thanks, man.
Yeah, well, I'll just shoot you a message at 2 a.m. and be like, but why, man? And you'll know exactly what's going on, but why?
Yeah. So do you have anything that's coming up that maybe you want to talk about?
So let's see. November, with my holidays, I usually try and take it slow, just because I want to spend a little time with kids and family, because for 10 and a half months, I'm running and gunning as hard as I can.
Yeah.
But December, I have my one show up it was around Fargo. It'll be for Below Zero.
Mm-hmm.
And that's December 10th.
Okay.
And then the 16th, I have another one in Thief River Falls, Minnesota. Okay. And that'll be my last tag match here with Joey Anderson.
Okay.
it's he's talking about it might be time, and so we're just making these last matches count, and we're going and hitting the places where we've had a lot of success with our friends, and just kind of send him off on a high note, high rolling, and we'll see where it takes him afterwards. I mean, we never always really retire. I'm sure he'll come back and we'll have one more or two more.
Right.
But this is if this is gonna be it for him, we want to make sure that it's memorable and it's not just some humdrum tag matches, and we actually have a good time. So,
well, that makes sense. And you're right. There have been a ton of them who have quote unquote retired, and then a few years later been like, I'll come back for one match, and then the next thing you know, they're doing it pretty much full time again.
Right. And then, who am I to shit on that? I love Terry Funk, but he's had 86 retirement shows. And even though he's passed, I still think he's got one more in him. Like, I don't. Yeah. We don't ever really go away.
Yeah.
So
that was a rough week, dude.
That was a bad time. And Tim will tell you, I'm a Terry Funk fan. Like, any situation that pops up, I will find a way to tie it back to Terry Funk.
Yeah.
And that was tough. And as soon as I was on the mend from that, then there was with Bray, and I was like, oh shit, Bray?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
He's the same age as me. I mean, he was only a year older than me.
Yeah, and I'd actually got to spend some time when I was doing some extra stuff. I went and I hung out with Bray and Harper and Rowan. This was when they were on their big run.
Okay.
This was pretty cool. So the last time that I didn't work with them, just to age myself, because why wouldn't I want to do that? This was when Titus O'Neil was on his first big singles push from Darren Young. So this really goes back into the archives. They were teaching Titus how to wrestle like a big man, so they sent Fit Finley out to show him how to do it. And Fit Finley is the biggest 5'8" man I've ever met in my life.
Exactly. Yep.
And so he's teaching Titus and teaching him how to work around, and I was sitting at ringside, and so they waved me in to have Fit Finley beat me up. I was like, well, this is it. This has been a good run. And Fit was like, you're big. You just move him. And so he picked me up under my lat, and he grabbed my trap on the opposite side and just hooked me. And I didn't have much of a say in the matter. I just went. And he looks at me, he goes, you all right? I was like, yeah, just Jesus said this isn't time yet. And he let out a quick little and that was it. But after that, I hopped back over the guardrail, and I sat with Harper and Rowan and Bray, and we just kind of hung out for a while, and I ran around with them while they were hiding from writers, and just it was kind of cool. And I was like, man, I really should probably show in more face though if I want them to do something with me.
Yeah.
And so I parked my ass in catering where they told me to, and had some good steak. That's the best part of all this with any kind of extra work. The catering is fantastic.
That's what I hear.
Yeah. And then so both times that I've ever done extras, I had interaction with Bray. And so that one was cool, but the first one was hilarious. So we show up, they give us the little hallway to go change in, and I think I might have touched on this story a little bit with you too. They give us the hallway to go change in, whatever. We drop our stuff off, and we're just minding our own. Bray threw open the door, and he goes, "Hey, have you all seen Fandango's?"
Oh gosh.
And I have no idea how to begin to process this sentence.
Yeah.
I'm looking at him, and I heard it, but I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And so I look like, well, where could it be? And I look to my left, and there's Fandango having done the Buffalo Bill swing and tuck.
Oh, no.
With his arms out going, I don't know where it went.
Wow.
And there's like sitting there like, oh, I guess it is gone. Like, you don't
know what to say.
You get called in for extra work. And this was, to even date myself further, this was a SmackDown when Cody was doing the bags.
Okay.
So this is when they had extras handing out bags to the front row. So I got my call. I was like, all right, I'm going to go hand out bags. I'll get a quick look, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah.
And then here I am. I've just dropped my bags off. I've shook hands with everybody. I made sure that I checked in. And then now I'm on a scavenger hunt for Fandangos, and I was not prepared to go to work that day.
That's not one I did not expect. You didn't tell me that one last time. That's a new one for me.
Yeah, I got a million of them. There was, what year was this? Was 2010, 2011? I worked Gathering of the Juggalos one time.
Oh.
And this was, yeah. And you know what?
That's got to be interesting.
It is the most out-of-body experience you can have. I didn't partake in the activities on the you can find it on their map. It's called the Drug Bridge. I didn't partake in the festivities. There was a guy that apparently partook too much, and he put together a sign that said, "We'll break my arm for $300." And he's very proudly holding the sign up. He goes, "I spent all my money on drugs. I don't have any money to get home. I'll break my arm for $300." And I was there with my buddy Donnie Pepper Cricket.
Yeah,
and
I know him.
Yeah, Donnie's great. He was my first and second match. I've known him forever.
Okay,
so we're going, and he has the sign up, and then Donnie stops, and he looks, and he goes, "But can I break your arm for $300?" No, I'll break my arm. I'll just do it. No, I want to break your arm for $300.
Oh, wow.
And so this guy's like, suddenly he didn't want to do it. And I was like, this guy's, he's probably double jointed. He's going to try and say he's broken at his elbow, and you give him $300 and you'll see him spend it on drugs later. It's fine. So we just minded our own and went off on our business here. And that night was absolutely wild because they did, I don't know if you're familiar with the shows that they decide to run during this experience known as The Gathering. They have Flashlight Mania. And that's where all the fans have their flashlights and they wrestle in the dark.
Oh,
at
wow.
2 a.m. Yeah, everyone's been on drugs for 14 hours, and now they're going to arm them with flashlights in the dark. It only goes well.
Yeah.
So they start this off before Flashlight Mania. They have a couple matches. There's Kamala. He's booked for this, and he's out, comes back, and I'm in a locker room with Ian Rotten, Jim Duggan, Gangrel's in there. Like, it's a who's who of names.
Yeah.
And so Kamala comes back from his match, and he's still doing his Kamala stuff. And Ian Rotten looks at him and goes, "Hey, Clown said they're pissed you didn't get any color. They're cutting your pay." And suddenly he went from Ugandan giant to that motherfucker from the block. And he went, "Oh, I'm going to get my pay." And he stormed off to the trailer. The Clowns didn't even see his match, so they have no idea what's going on. But he is livid, and he's asking everybody, "Who did it? Who did the Clown say that? The Clown say that?" And there's Jim Duggan sitting in the corner reading a book with his little reading glasses on in his wrestling gear with the 2x4 leaning against him.
Yeah.
That way he can Duggan at the last second.
Yeah.
But he's just reading, War and Peace. I don't know. It was a good sized novel. He wasn't just reading any kind of Skyline magazine.
Yeah.
And he's, Jim, you be honest. Is that what they said? That's what he said. And he took his glasses off, and he folded them, and he closed his book, and he put the glasses on the book, and he looks over at Kamala peacefully, and he goes, "Kamala, I heard the whole thing. They said they're cutting your pay in half, brother." Opened his glasses back up, put them back on his face, opened his book, went back to reading. And so now Kamala is screaming down this campground to go fight him. And there's so many things happen during this. There's so Sid Vicious's boy was booked for this, and they went to go pick him up from the airport, but they have vans without seats. So now there's a van without seats picking up someone, and they're in clown makeup, and then the van breaks down in the woods. It sounds like a horror movie waiting to happen. And so Sid Vicious's son is now stuck in the woods in a van with no seats, and people are in clown makeup. at like 2 a.m.
Doesn't
yes,
sound like it's going to end well.
And the town is called Cave in Rock.
Yep.
So this sounds like Stab Capital USA to me.
Yep.
And also this night was when Tila Tequila got all kinds of cups of human excrement thrown at her.
Oh.
Yeah. So this whole, I don't know if the bottom of the boat just fell out or if it never left the dock, because this was like the roughest 24 hours for this whole thing. So she went on at like midnight or whatever. Everyone's probably a little tired because they've been on drugs since Tuesday. Yeah. And, she wasn't that entertaining. And I'm sitting here with Chris Hero and Colt Cabana, Davari, Arya Davari was there. I'll pick up all these names that I'm dropping here in a sec. I'm sitting here with these guys, sitting here with them watching this concert, and like people are starting to peter off and walk away. And I was like, oh, I feel bad for her on this one.
Yeah.
And so she does what she thinks she needs to do, and she starts removing articles of clothing to keep continuing performing, and so people will be a little more interested. And it kept a little interest, but then the music happened, and they're like, well, maybe not. And so they start to peel off again, and she takes to the microphone, and she is just, screw the clowns, screw the juggalos, this, that, the other. Well, people don't like that, so now they're throwing trash, but the trash isn't making it. So this brain trust has now went, well, we're just going to go throw cups of pee at her.
Oh.
So now they're hitting the urinals, or they're hitting the porta-johns, and they're scooping it up and trying to hook it at her, and it's not quite making it. Like, well, what's heavier? Okay. So now there's people with poop in cups and throwing it at her. And one guy apparently thinks he evolved the rest of this group and went, I found a brick, and threw a brick at her.
Oh, no.
I watched her get grazed with this brick, and that's when we left, because I'm like, I'm not witnessing any more of this shit. So we ran back to go watch Flashlight Mania with Bullet Bob Armstrong and Cowboy Bob Orton to start the whole thing off. They even started late, so it was like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning for Flashlight Wrestling.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard stories about, the gathering of the Juggalos and stuff. And especially from because they have comedians and stuff there sometimes too, right?
Yeah. It used to be about 3 or 4 day festival, but I think they started losing too much money and they just keep it down to the weekend. But
right.
Yeah,
I remember hearing a story about one of the comedians and how he started going after one of the guys in the crowd that was dressed up like a clown and stuff. And they all just started chanting family at him. It was like family, and it was very intimidating situation that happened. So I've heard some crazy stuff.
It's wonderful to experience, but if you're there too long, it gets to feel a little culty, especially when they start these family chants at you.
Yeah.
I wrestled for them one time when they were over in Council Bluffs, Iowa.
Okay.
And it was me and my tag partner Brian Gott at the time, and it was against the Haters, and the Haters had all kinds of crazy heat at this time. And so we're having this match. I got bumped off the apron, hit the guardrail, whatever. Someone in clown makeup leans over and looks at me and goes, "Where do you hide your knife on your trunks?"
Oh.
And I went, "Oh, it's in the other trunks." And I just roll away because I'm like, I'm not about to tell this guy that I'm not armed.
Yeah.
In case he's like, "That's a damn shame you don't have a knife. Stab." And that's it for me.
Oh,
so like,
oh my goodness.
It was an experience.
Yeah.
But at the end of the show, we got to go shoot Fago all over everybody, throw 3 liters into the crowd. And it was a big soul touching moment for them. And I was like, hey, whatever, I guess this is cool.
So were the matches just like regular wrestling matches, or is it were they hardcore matches? Were they death matches?
So they had a couple hardcore matches. Madman Pondo wrestled Donnie on that show.
Okay.
And Donnie, as much as he is very 80s and he loves his vibrant colors and he's a big Power Ranger nerd and loves
nothing
all
wrong
of
with
it.
That.
No, nothing at all. That's just he's honed in on that, and and they put him in there with Madman Pondo, and Donnie loves his deathmatch wrestling. He was actually in one of the first double death tournaments for IWA Mid-South.
Oh.
And he's the only guy I've ever seen get cut open with safety scissors. They weren't that safe that day.
Nope, sure weren't.
He loves his deathmatch stuff, so he was absolutely tickled to be working with Mondo or Madman Pondo. And then there was a couple quick little triple threats. There was our tag, another singles, and then there was something for the JCW title. But it was all pretty quick, pretty short matches.
Yeah.
They let the death match had a little bit more to go because Pondo had all of his things he wanted to get in: the bowling ball, the stop sign, all that, sledgehammer,
Yep.
the gun spot. I don't know if there is one, but maybe, I don't know. So they had a little bit more time to work with. But yeah, they have, it's kind of little popcorn matches to keep everybody involved and get a couple family chants and a whoop whoop. And it was an experience.
It sounds like it. Yeah, that's some crazy stories. So I did want to ask you, have you done very many death matches? Have you done any of those?
So I've done the no ring death matches. So nothing where I'm falling in barbed wire or anything crazy like that.
Okay.
It's the no rings at I don't know if it's taken off in the South at all, but up north it's a pretty big thing right now. Where it's no ring death match, to where you get all the crunchy stuff and the sharp things, but you don't really do a whole lot of falling down and bumping around as much as it is just kind of take turns stabbing each other a little bit.
Yeah.
I had my most recent was at a strip club in Omaha. I tell you, I've been everywhere and done a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So we have this death match at a strip club, and it's in the backyard, so there's no fun action. We'll say there's a stage, and then there's a barbed wire spider web.
Yeah.
And then there was, oh gosh, just about everything, about 50 light tubes hanging out, just the usual plunder. And I wrestled Jeff O'Shea for that. And I did not know that guy got busted open that hard, and he about passed out just from all the blood on that one. I just hit him with a shopping cart, and apparently the corner got him pretty good. So, yeah, he was pretty well. He about ran out of blood at a certain point.
Oh wow, yeah. That's rough.
Yeah, and for a while there, I was like, I don't really want to do any of this kind of stuff, but I know it's the hotness and it'll get you a little attention, so why not give it a shot? And then I talked myself into it. I was like, wow, Terry Funk did death matches. I'll just do it Terry Funk style. I'll just do it real smart.
You're going to be in a ring that's exploding. Maybe a little better than the AEW one, though.
Maybe I'll start out in one of those little AEW ones where it's just kind of sparkler farts, and then we'll go right into full-blown explosions.
Yeah, I watched the Dark Side of the Ring where they were talking about what company was it in Japan that did all those insane matches, and Terry Funk worked with them a lot.
FMW, Frontier Martial Arts.
Yeah. And I watched that. That was an interesting one. Scary, some of the things that they did.
Yeah. I remember that one where they were talking about the tag match where the ropes were on fire.
Yeah.
And before they even got to it, I was like, well, wouldn't that pull all the air out of the ring because it needs to feed the fire? And then the next line was, and there was no air in it because it was feeding the fire because the flames were so high. And,
yep.
No, that sounded like a bad idea. Okay.
Yep. Man, this has been a lot of fun. We're actually coming up close to a close on this. I'm sure you probably still have a ton of stories to tell. That's why we'll have to plan for a part 3 of having you on here.
Yes, I've been around. It'll be 15 years in December.
15 years.
So, yeah, I've gone a lot of places. I've done a lot of wild things. I could go on to just talk about all kinds of random shit. Yeah. But yeah, we'll just have to schedule for part 3 because I got I got stories to go, and it seems like anytime I'm in the car with my guys over here, shout out to Brixton Nash and Jameson McGregor and Nino Hatchett. They're my up and comers in the area.
Right.
Good talent. I'm trying to drag them down south once they aren't so busy up north. I've explained to them, hey, you can split your schedule where you can work in the south in the winter where it's not ice.
Right. A little safer to drive.
And then you can work in the north in the summer where it's a little cooler as opposed to the oppressive heat that is known as Oklahoma.
Yep.
Where it's 110 degrees at 9:00 at night.
Yep.
I'm like, you can split this. It's okay. And like, we're loyal. It's like, I get you're loyal. That's great. That's cool. However, it's a lot easier if you just do it this way. And then they'll get it because, if you're not there all the time, you don't saturate the area and then you create a demand for you and it works out as a business. But
Exactly. So if people want to follow you online, how can they do that?
So pretty much everything is at Copperhead Duke, Duke Cornell on Facebook. And I don't have anything crazy. I don't TikTok. I have too many kids to TikTok and feel good about myself.
Yeah. You could
I feel
put
like
highlights up on there.
That's another thing I got to get doing is another highlight reel because there's, I have dreadlocks in those, so I should probably get that updated.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's a young person's game, and even though I'm wandering around at 35, I feel like that's probably a little more in the mid-20s and down. So I stick away from it a little bit.
Shoot, I'm on it. I'm the same age as you, so if you're too old for it, then I am too.
No, I have a 16-year-old daughter that's all over it. I have 12-year-old that's all over it. And I feel like I'm right at that cusp because there was an article that I had read one time to where it's like at 35, new technology starts to bother you and it's now a nuisance. But everything before that, you'll be like, oh, receptive and adaptive to it.
Yeah. I'm
right at that line where I was like, this seems like a pain in my ass. And I only know it's only going downhill from here.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know. I feel like it starts at TikTok for me. And then we're just going to see just how quick this plummets.
I can definitely see that. I also heard that at 35, you pick one of two hobbies, and that's either history, like world history, or smoking meat.
And I have picked smoking meat. I am picking out my smoker for the summer, and I'm ready to go. Yes.
Are you going like pellet, or are you going to go like the old style with the wood chips and stuff?
See, this is where I'm keen to do my research, and I really am kind of leaning toward the toward the wood chips.
Okay,
I'm really leaning toward that.
Yeah, I mean, you have to kind of stay out there with it. I mean, that's a reason to drink beer for the day.
Yeah.
So
I mean, kind of the plan. You do a little day drinking and then have some meat when you're ready.
Exactly. Yeah. One of my friends, I took a trip to Texas, to Texarkana. It's actually been 2 years ago now that I think about it. But I went down there and went to his dad's place, and they had converted, the Coke refrigerators at Walmart that are right by the cash registers and stuff.
Yeah.
They took one of those and converted that into a smoker.
Okay.
It was really cool. But, I've seen all kinds of things. I saw one where these people took a filing cabinet and made a smoker out of it.
I've seen something like that.
Yeah. But
that's pretty genius.
It is. It takes some ingenuity to come up with that stuff. But I'm going to be the lazy one, and I'm probably going to end up getting the electric one. So the pellets and stuff.
There's nothing wrong with that. I feel like wood chips I'm going to be a wood chips guy, and I'll be that wood chip snob, and I'm judging everybody else. I feel like that's going to be me by 40 as I'm going to rate my friends on the wood chips they use in their smoker.
So by the time you're 40, you're going to stop talking to me altogether because you're going to be like, that dude uses electric.
Hey, that's 5 more years of stories that we got until it comes time. And
that's
I find
true.
out you got that electric one, and like, hey, I got literally anything else going on. We'll try again.
Well, man, it has been great talking to you tonight. I've really enjoyed this. I've enjoyed the stories, and I can't wait to see you wrestle again and see what you're going to do next.
Yeah, I'm excited to dip down a little more into the South. I've been talking with Diamond State actually, and we're getting something figured out for next year.
Awesome.
I know he's kind of had his schedule full for the year, and I'm not going to sit here and press him. So, but yeah, we've been back and forth on that. Trying to dip down into Texas. Been trying that for a while here. So if anyone's listening, go ahead and put a word in for a brother. Montana's on the docket for next year. Wisconsin, we've talked about that a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really just trying to hammer out more of these states. Back to Tennessee because I love wrestling in Nashville. They have. I'm a foodie. I'm a fat kid at heart, and when my metabolism slows down, I'll show it in more than just my heart. But there's a great restaurant over there, Edley's. It has the best catfish I've ever had in my life.
Okay.
And they have one of the most delicious pecan pies I've ever had. And that's coming out of Tennessee and not Georgia. So, and I've had pecan pie in Georgia because I wrestled in Atlanta a couple times. So, Edley's. If I can get back to Nashville to just eat at Edley's, I'll be fine. I will go put over whoever in whatever amount of time. As long as I get Edley's afterwards, I'm fine. So anybody in Nashville looking for someone to count lights, I bet you I can do it better than anybody else.
Have you had the pecan pie with the chocolate chips in it?
I have not yet.
Oh, it's so good, man. You've got to try it.
That sounds like it takes it to the next level. I got to try this now.
Yeah, it's delicious. I'm a pie guy. There's people who are like, oh, I like cake or stuff like that. I'll always go for pie first.
Oh yeah, I will. I'll go out of my way for a good pie.
Yep.
I'm like I feel like I'm in a minority in the Midwest, but I love a good key lime pie.
That's good. Yeah.
I seem like I'm just surrounded by to where everyone's like, but that's a weird way to say apple. Well, apple's great too, but key lime's really good. Yeah, but that's not cherry. You got it.
There's a southern one that my grandma used to make, and not a lot of people know about it, but it's one of my favorites, and that's raisin pie.
I was gonna say, is it shoe fly pie? Because I can get down with shoe fly pie.
Shoe fly pie. What's that?
It's basically molasses. It's just a molasses pie.
Oh, I've never had that before. Is that a northern thing?
No, it's actually something I got down in the South when we were in Georgia.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up. I've never had that one. But no, raisin pie. My grandma used to make it. And, they called it dog tick pie a lot of times. But, it's so good.
You know what? I do want to give that a try.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of grapes and raisins and all that stuff. So, the first time I saw it, I thought it looked nasty. But then I tried it and I was like, all right, this is good. So now my mom has kind of kept the tradition going. And every year at Thanksgiving now, she makes the raisin pie.
Yeah, I was the same way when I saw rhubarb cake for the first time. It seemed wet and unappealing. Yeah. And then I had rhubarb cake and I was like, oh my gosh, there's no other way to do this.
That's one thing down here is rhubarb is not a big thing. But my wife, being from Minnesota, she's like, oh, rhubarb, that's good stuff. But I've still yet to try it.
Yeah, you got to get the rhubarb strawberry rhubarb pie. That's where it's at.
Yeah. A little tartness to it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little tart, a little sweet. It's really good.
All right. Well, it sounds like we're going to end up, I'm going to have to go find some pie after we get off here.
Yeah, I was going to say we turn this into a piecast.
All right, man. Well, you have a good evening. And like I said, I can't wait to see what happens next with you. You have a good night, man.
You too.
Hey, listeners. Pardon for the interruption, but I'm Billy, and I'm always joined by my co-host Jim, the bulk and skull of the Zeo to Hero podcast, where every week is always going to be a different surprise. You got to tune in to find out what we talk about. It could be anything from 90s nostalgia, Power Rangers, anime, giant fighting robots, or landing on the moon. Who knows? So, definitely check us out on any of the podcast places where you find yours.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa.
And I'm Dawn.
And if you've ever watched a TV show and thought to yourself, oh my god, that season finale plot twist was absolutely bonkers.
Or seen a movie and thought, wow, I need to talk to somebody about this train wreck immediately.
Then we think you'll fit right in with our podcast, I Hate It, Let's Watch It. We watch TV shows like Riverdale and Emily in Paris.
And movies like Deep Water, Killer Sofa, Rubber, and Deadly Illusions. And we give them the total rinsing they deserve.
It's basically group therapy for movie masochists. So come check us out wherever you stream podcasts.
All right, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed that episode with Duke Cornell. He was a lot of fun to talk to, and I think that we're probably going to end up setting him up to come back on sometime towards the first of next year so we can tell some more of those great stories. And I just want to say thank you to him for being on the show. I know he's a busy guy, and so having him on is always a real treat. So next week, I'm actually going to have a guy that we talked about a little bit in this week's episode. I'm going to have Angel Camacho on with me. We're going to talk about anime, and we're going to talk about comic books and wrestling and how we got started in it. It's a really good conversation, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. So make sure that you tune in next week to hear that episode. So I want to give a shout out to my podcast networks, the OIW Podcast Network, the Zio to Hero Podcast Network, and the Avenue Podcast Network. While you're waiting for a new episode of iGadapt to drop, make sure that you go and listen to one of these networks to find other shows. You know, they have all kinds of great content, whether it be a travel podcast or if you want to hear unique stories, go and listen to these places. That way you can hear something while you're waiting on new episodes of this. So I also have merch out. I want you guys to go out there, look that stuff up. I actually have a new shirt. I know I keep telling you guys this, but I have a new shirt that's coming out here very soon. I've got the design here in the studio with me. We'll be making a mock-up of it here soon. That way you guys can start ordering that one. But I also have the original shirt still here. You can get it in different colors. Make sure that you go and look that up. My wife does all this stuff for me. Make sure that you hit up her business as well. It's Cups and Teas by Stasha. I will have a link to her stuff in my show notes. She makes amazing stuff from shirts, hats, tumblers, you name it, she can do it. She does all kinds of stickers, all of my merch. She also does some of the merch for Diamond State Wrestling that you've seen, so make sure that you go out and give her some love as well. So I want to give a shout out to D-Cure for making my ending theme song for me. Thank you for that. And if you guys like the way that sounds, make sure that you go out and follow him. He's all the time coming out with new music. It's awesome stuff. He makes stuff so often. I think he's trying to do a different album for every letter of the alphabet right now. I think he's on M right now. So he's a monster when it comes to creating new music. So go out there, follow him, and listen to his great music. I also want to say thank you to Original Geek Comics for allowing me to be part of their Paladin comic book. If you guys want some really good new content when it comes to your comic books, go out there, follow Original Geek, and start looking at their stuff. They've got amazing content. And as you know from last week, whenever we talked with Nick Helms, we talked about how they're kind of expanding and they've got different parts that are coming in. You've got the music that's coming in. You've got novels and all these different things. So go out there and give Original Geek some love. Also, I am a part of Diamond State Wrestling. You know that I was doing the Rare Cut with Jamie Rose, and now him and Jake are doing that show because I am about to start a new project with Diamond State Wrestling, and you'll be hearing about that here really soon, so make sure that you stay tuned and up to date with everything. That way, whenever my new project comes out, you can jump right into that as well. So as you know, I'm all over social media. You can find me just about anywhere. Just go on a search engine and type in If You Give a Dad a Podcast, and you can find me on pretty much any social media site. Or you can type that into Google, and I should be the first 10 to 15 results that you find on Google. Also, if you want to send me an email, send it to giveadadapodcast@gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you guys. If you have somebody that you would like me to bring on the show, I will try my best to get them on here, but let me know who you want. I had somebody reach out recently and ask to have somebody on the show, and I've got it set up. Here in the next few weeks, you will be hearing that person come on the show. As you're listening to this, make sure that you go out and rate and review this episode, like, share, and subscribe to it. That way, When a new episode comes out, hit that notification bell. That way you'll get notified every time there is a new episode of If You Give a Data podcast. And the more people that rate and review this show, the more likely I am to be recommended to somebody new. I posted something today, and I thought it was really cool. I'm very excited about it. You guys have heard me talk about being on FeedSpot's Top 50 Dad Podcasts, and I started out at number 25, and then I moved to number 22. Now I am sitting at number 4 on that list. So I've moved up that chart really fast, and it's all thank you to all of you who listen to this show. You make that possible, and I appreciate every single one of you for listening to this episode and listening to this show. So we've come to the end of another episode of If You Give a Data podcast, and now it is time for Billy's favorite part of the episode, and that is Dad Joke of the Week. Did you hear the rumor about the butter? I'm not going to spread it.
Seriously?
All right, you guys. I love you. I hope that you have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time. Bye.
I'm in my room rounded, but I got a podcast on. He calls us beautiful people, then tells us who we have on. The best part of my day, though we're blocked out in my pods. Tell my friends all about it so that they follow along. And the host is kinda nerdy, but guess what, I am as well. I don't feel so alone, and I began walking out of my shell. Heard a story, I need a connection I haven't felt. I'll be looking for the next one, till then farewell. It's the podcast for me. Have it on, better go see. Listen closely, download and tune in remotely. It's the podcast for me. Have it on, better go see. And listen closely, download and tune in remotely.
This podcast is part of the OIW Podcasting Network.